Away from all the hard stuff, it's Eid celebrations around the world. Starting today, and Muslim worshippers across the Middle East and North Africa filled mosques earlier today performing prayers. One Gaza resident said that they are celebrating Eid despite the pain and prayers. Attendants in different cities had one wish in common: better days ahead for the region. Eid al-Adha, one of Islam's two main festivals, marks the climax of the annual Hajj pilgrimage, when Muslims slaughter animals to commemorate the willingness of Abraham to sacrifice his son on God's command, often distributing meat to the poor. And over in Saudi Arabia, today is the day that Muslim pilgrims perform the symbolic stoning of the devil, a ritual considered the riskiest part of the annual Hajj pilgrimage. Pilgrims arrived in Mina after they spent the night in Muzdalifah, where they gathered pebbles to throw at stone columns symbolizing the devil. The ritual of stoning, known as Jamarat, marks the first day of Eid al-Adha, or the Feast of Sacrifice, which is celebrated by Muslims across the globe. Here in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu marked his first Eid al-Adha in office by joining other Muslim faithful on the prayer grounds at the Dodan Barracks, Obalende, Ikoyi, Lagos. He called on Nigerians to have faith in the new administration and to support government policies in order to have a peaceful and well-developed country.
This is not the regular praying ground at Dodan Barracks, Ikoyi, Lagos. The cloudy weather prompted this new open space for the 2023 Eid al-Kabir prayer. It's also a unique occasion because President Bola Tinubu joins Muslim faithful to pray here as President of Nigeria. Over the years, he has offered prayers here as APC national leader, senator representing Lagos State, and Lagos State governor. Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, Deputy Governor of Lagos, Kadri Hamzat, former Governor of Lagos, and former Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, who is also celebrating his birthday today, joined the President for his first religious gathering in Lagos, his home state. One message that usually rings loud and clear during Eid al-Adha is sacrifice, peace and unity, as echoed by the Chief Imam of Lagos State.
That Allah does not love any call to tribalism or ethnic superiority among His servants, but He loves mutual cooperation, unity, stability, justice and righteousness. As we celebrate this Eid al-Kabir, let us forget our political differences and shun all out of violence to ensure peaceful coexistence and progress of our nation, Nigeria.
Former Speaker of the House of Representatives, who resumed as the President's Chief of Staff barely 2 weeks ago, appeals to Nigerians to give President Tinubu all necessary support to continue on his mission to unify the country.
Mr. President needs your support. As you have rallied around him, as you continue to support him, Almighty Allah will continue to support you as well. This is a difficult time for Nigeria, but we will turn that corner. We will turn that corner. All the President needs from you today and tomorrow is your prayers.
Meanwhile, Lagos State Deputy Governor Kadri Hamzat asked Nigerians to be patriotic to the country and pray for guidance for the President.
The spirit of patriotism will reside in all of us, so that we, in our own space, we will do the right thing for this country. Because it is not only the leaders, it is all of us. But we pray that our leaders, Tinubu and all our leaders here, on behalf of the people of Lagos State and the governor of Lagos State, we pray that God will grant you the fortitude to actually carry the weight of this country.
As he continues to play a leadership role for the country, President Tinubu says he's hopeful for a better Nigeria as he appeals to citizens to believe in his administration and his plans.
Have faith in the country. Have faith in yourself. Believing that you, as a citizen of this country, you must join hands. No religious identity, no tribal identity. Live with one another in joy and prosperity. It will come. Nigeria will see peace, stability, and God will grant peace to those of us who are in the war front. We spare their life. We give them victory. Those in the hospitals, we give them succor and peace.
As the 2023 Eid al-Kabir celebration continues, Nigerians are also admonished to imbibe the virtue of tolerance, peace, and unity.
Staying here in Nigeria, the Asian city of Kano in the northern part of the country, residents have been lamenting the impact of economic hardship hindering their ability to enjoy the Eid celebrations. According to them, the rising prices of goods and services have made it difficult to even prepare for the celebrations. Channels Television's correspondent Sadiq Yasu reports.
Eid al-Adha, also known as the Feast of Sacrifice, is the second and largest of the two main holidays celebrated in Islam. In Kano, a state in northwest Nigeria with a Muslim majority population, a mixed multitude flocked to the market in search of items to feast on during the celebration. It's a day to eat celebrations, and here in Kano State, northwest Nigeria, livestock markets have suddenly sprung up in some of the streets in the state for easy access to buyers. Many customers approach the market carefully, considering what they will have to give up to get what they desire.
You know, it's not everyone that is experiencing this hardship. No matter the situation, there are always people that are capable. So we thank God.
And the price is very high. So I keep searching, and beside here I will also go to another place to see what I can afford to buy.
While some can afford to indulge in a festive celebration, Ramadan Umar is not in a celebratory mood. He lost his livelihood due in the recent demolition exercise. In tears, he wonders what there is to celebrate.
We lost our shop after the demolition exercise. We are now struggling with what to feed our family. I can't afford any ram, and I even heard that they are expensive.
Besides Ramadan, Muttaka Shehu sits hopelessly unable to afford a ram for the Eid celebration, but all he wants is food on the table for the family.
We are thinking of what to eat for now. I have children and a wife. They are aware that I can't afford a ram.
There is a chance their families may still get some ram meat for the celebration. That is, if other faithful remember what the Prophet said about sharing at a time like this.
Commanded by the Prophet ﷺ that whenever a Muslim slaughters an animal during this festival or during this ritual, he is supposed to divide it into three. He keeps 1/3 for himself and his family, and the other 2 he gives it out as charity to Muslims who are not able to slaughter.
While the rising price is born of the new government policies and recent demolitions have cast a shadow over the festivities in Kano, the tradition of allocating a portion of sacrificial animals for charity should remind everyone of the importance of sharing and caring for those in need. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
And still ahead on the program. 5 cases of malaria are confirmed in the U.S. states of Florida and Texas. Welcome back. We head to Europe, where French President Emmanuel Macron has described Tuesday's shooting of a teenager by the police as unforgivable. In his comments since the incident, President Macron said nothing justifies a young person's death. 17-year-old Nahel was shot in his car after failing to stop when police ordered him to. The president's comments have not gone down well, with many residents of Paris were prompting an angry reaction from the police unions who accused him of rushing to judge the officers involved. Video of the incident on social media shows an officer pointing a gun at the driver of a car before a gunshot is heard and the car then crashes to a stop. The teenager died of bullet wounds in the chest despite help from emergency services. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, protesters armed with fireworks clashed with riot police in Nanterre, where the 17-year-old was shot and killed by police. Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin says 31 people were arrested in the clashes, in which 40 cars were burnt, mostly where the victim was from. Eyewitness videos showed smoke from tear gas rising, fireworks exploding and riot police charging. Prosecutors on Tuesday said the shooting took place after the youth failed to comply with an order to stop his car. The officer fired at the boy, who subsequently died from his wounds. Now let's check in on South Korea, where residents are glad to become a year or two younger. If you are as confused as I am, and I really am, you are in good company. Let's see if I can explain this, though. New laws in the country now require using only the international method of counting age, which has taken effect, replacing the country's traditional method. Under the age system most commonly used in South Korea's everyday life, people are deemed to be a year old at birth, and a year is added every January 1. The country has since early 1960s used the international norm of calculating from 0 at birth and adding a year on every birthday for medical and legal documents. But many South Koreans continue to use the traditional method for everything else. Back in December, South Korea passed laws to scrap the traditional method and fully adopt the international standard. According to a government survey conducted in September 2022, 86% of South Koreans said they would use the international age in their everyday life when the new laws took effect. Well, it's been crazy weather in some parts of the world. In northeast India, residents were surrounded today by floodwater, dampening spirits for the Eid al-Adha celebrations. It has been experiencing monsoon rains across most parts of the country. There are predictable difficulties today due to the devastating floods, as residents feel they may have to move somewhere else to be able to celebrate. India's monsoon season rains were set to cover the whole country by the weekend, according to the Indian Meteorological Department, as the orange alerts were issued and heavy rainfall was expected to lash the region through Sunday, July the 2nd. Well, it's a different story, but also horrible weather news over in Europe, where people have been trying to cope with a heat wave this time. It has been particularly difficult for those in Barcelona, Spain, experiencing its first heat wave of the summer. A Human Rights Watch published on Monday said that those with chronic pulmonary disease and certain other disabilities could suffer more during the episodes of extreme heat. Some, like 62-year-old double lung transplant patient Fernando Uceta, can hardly breathe and feels tired easily. To combat the heat, he sprays water over himself with a refillable plastic bottle. Human Rights Watch says people with disabilities face risks to death, physical, social, and mental distress due to the extreme heat, particularly if left to cope with dangerous temperatures on their own. Well, head of international program at Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit in the UK, Gareth Redmond-King, says a lack of real progress and all decisions have led downward towards a damning report of the country's role in tackling climate change. Britain in 2019 became the first member of the group of 7 wealthy nations to set a target to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, requiring major changes in the way Britons travel and use electricity. The impact of climate change is already evident in Britain, which experienced record temperatures over 40 Celsius last year.
I think one of the most striking things about it is the sort of top line warning of the UK losing its international leadership position as a result, not just of the lack of progress, which of course is visible to everybody else, particularly when its own advisors kind of report to Parliament on it publicly, but also some of the sort of very odd decisions that it's taken since COP26, which rather undermine its position. I mean, the UK founded the Powering Past Coal Alliance, for example, was one of the first countries to commit to a date to phase out coal, and yet we're giving the go-ahead for a new coal mine, which will keep producing coal for decades beyond the point where industry can be using coal, really. So we could be going gung-ho for heat pumps. We could be going gung-ho for onshore wind. But at the moment, the planning system it imposes a sort of de facto ban on new onshore wind, which the government could lift to help speed up decarbonisation of electricity. And on planning, we are still building homes that are being connected to the gas grid, that don't have renewables built into them, that don't have decent energy efficiency standards. So basically, we're still building the problem rather than the planning system tackling the problem. It's not about switching off oil and gas tomorrow. It's about having the oil and gas that we need for the period that we're decarbonising. So all of that just undermines the hard work of negotiators and the credibility of a very ambitious target. If people can see that UK politicians are making commitments that are at odds with those.
And if there's anything people in the United States hate, it's inclement weather, and those in New York have been particular sufferers following smoky haze from ongoing Canadian wildfires settling across parts of the country. Skylines in Chicago, Indianapolis, and New York were partially obscured by the smoke this morning. Chicago, the third largest city in the United States, had the worst air quality of any large city in the world due to the smoke. Earlier in June, New York briefly held the top spot for the world's worst air quality as smoke from the wildfires blanketed the northeast and mid-Atlantic parts of the United States.
On the U.S. South.
It's no better for other Americans. The heat wave has been sweltering. People around Texas rode out of the wave by bathing in water fountains and eating ice cream. A prolonged heat wave kept its grip on the U.S. South on Tuesday as dangerously high temperatures, rising well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and oppressive humidity were on tap across a wide region through the holiday weekend. Some 62 million Americans in central Arizona, across Texas and the deep south, and into Florida's panhandle were under excessive heat watches, warnings and advisories that were expected to last until the 4th of July. That's according to the National Weather Service's heat index temperatures were forecast to reach 110 degrees in Dallas, 111 in New Orleans, and 107 in Alabama on Tuesday. The service said, urging people across the region to stay out of the sun and drink a lot of fluids.
Human-caused warming has made heat waves, heat domes like this hotter, more frequent, longer lasting, and covering larger areas. This is really important because heat is the deadliest kind of extreme weather in the United States. As we're seeing right now in the U.S. South, nighttime temperatures are really high. And nighttime temperatures are increasing even faster than the daytime temperatures. This is especially bad for our health, as very warm nights interfere with our body's ability to recover from the hot days. And this is especially a problem as heat waves are lasting longer. The Texas grid appears to be very vulnerable to a heat event like this because it doesn't have the capacity to bring in power from other places. And this heat dome is really expanding. And in Texas, we've seen, catastrophe happen there when the grid has gone down. And if it goes down during a heat event like this, people are going to die.
Out here in this heat and out living in the outdoors, water is extremely important. We have had to ramp up and giving more water out because of this heat. It can be very difficult out here in the elements. Every year there's people that actually pass away from the heat.
The heat is getting just unbearable. And most everybody's sleeping outside their tent now.
And more health concerns for people of the United States if it couldn't get any worse. We mentioned the U.S. state of Texas earlier. Well, it's one of those states, the other being Florida, where 5 cases of malaria have been confirmed. It's the first time the potentially fatal mosquito-borne disease has been locally acquired in the United States in 20 years. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the 4 Florida cases, along with 1 in Texas, have been diagnosed over a period of 2 months. The state of Florida said that its first case was diagnosed on May the 26th in Sarasota County, while officials in Texas said on June the 23rd that a Texas resident who worked outdoors in Cameron County had been diagnosed with the disease. The CDC said in an alert released Monday that the malaria is considered a medical emergency and that anyone with symptoms should be urgently evaluated.
So each year, particularly before COVID, we saw about 2,000 cases of malaria in the United States each year. But that was from people who were traveling abroad and acquired it internationally. What is different this time and why we put out the health notice to doctors and to the public is we had 5 cases of domestically acquired malaria, meaning people got it from in the United States, 4 in Florida and 1 in Texas. So it's a concern because malaria is a life-threatening disease. It's not often seen in the United States, and we haven't seen it domestically acquired in over 20 years.
Sure. So uncomplicated malaria is not extremely dangerous. A person gets a fever, they can get headache, they can have vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, they can have whole body aches. So it feels like a really bad flu. However, some people go on to develop complications, so they can have seizures, they can go into a coma, their liver and their kidneys could fail, and malaria can be fatal in severe cases. So the initial symptoms are not severe, but then untreated, malaria is an emergency disease. It is a little alarming to have a disease that we've eliminated from the United States and then have these few local cases. But they are a few cases. And I think that public health measures are really important for both tracking where the malaria is and then therefore making any interventions like trying to prevent more mosquito bites, either by decreasing the mosquito population or asking everyone to wear mosquito repellent. Like these are all things that can prevent ongoing transmission.
Well, that's the program today. Thank you for watching. Joke Rogers. Bye for now.